Healthcare Federation. Uh, Today we are bringing you a webinar by our good friends and partners from the IFC on planning for the future. And I don't want to believe this is one of those topics which I actually do consider important for two reasons. One is without good planning, it becomes very difficult to project to do projections for the future. But more importantly, in this era we find ourselves in of fixed fee for service by the largest strategic purchaser for health, the Social Health Authority, means that now we must get some of these elements of our business operations spot on. With us today is a fantastic team who we not only work together with, but have turned out to be excellent friends. We do have Joe, Faith Kukwaro from IFC. On our side, we have Martin and Joan, who will be taking us through the sessions. Sorry, that is Rukwaro, not Kukwaro, Rukwaro, who will be taking us through the sessions over the next few minutes. So without much ado, karibuni sana, and over to you. I don't know if it will be Joe or Faith, but please take the floor.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start. Let me just see if our slides are projecting. George, you want to go ahead and go over to the first slide? Before we do that, we'll have a round of introductions. Dr. Deru, thank you. Once again, IFC has partnered with KHF, and we've been doing a lot of work in the last 2 years where we're trying to empower healthcare organizations who are delivering care, impactful care, to make strategic purchases and responsible purchases, as this program was born out of COVID, when we were rushing to buy ventilators and trying to buy equipment, but were not making the sort of right decisions as to where, why, and making relationships with partners that would allow us to actually have a more meaningful and successful engagement in terms of the equipment we were procuring and serving the communities that we serve and so on. So this is AMEF, the Africa Medical Equipment Facility. My name is Faith Muigai. I serve as the National Program Coordinator for the AMEF program in Kenya. And with me, I have my colleagues, Joseph Williamson and Solomon Rukwaro. If you could also introduce yourselves. I have been a clinician for over 20 years. I've built and run institutions in Kenya, but have also practiced in the United States and have brought a lot of tenants from there to Kenya, lessons learned there in order to try and strengthen healthcare systems, quality being a key tenant in what we do as practitioners as well. But we'll talk more about that further. Joseph, please introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Williamson. I am one of the IFC healthcare quality consultants based in, worked with the IFC now for the last 7 years. However, I've been a obstetric clinical specialist for the last going on 25 to 30 years. And like Faith, I have run hospital systems. However, in the US and the Caribbean, and have brought a lot of the learning that we've gleaned. And the subject today about future planning is something that we've not always paid attention to. We've always been reactive instead of proactive. And I think this is what we're trying to change in Africa and in Kenya. And I'm going to let my colleague Matenge introduce himself. And then after that, Faith, if you'd go through this first slide on the AMEF ecosystem for us, please.
Thank you.
Matenge, over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Rukwaro Madenge. I am part of IFC Healthcare Advisory, supporting the AMEF program in Kenya and in the region. as similarly with my two other colleagues, I've also been in healthcare management for, I think, over a decade now, with bias in management and finance. Welcome to the session and looking forward to great interactions.
Thank you, Matenge. Over to you, Faith.
Hello, so thank you for that, and thank you for the introduction. So we'll go into the first slide where we talk about the Kenya healthcare sector has made a remarkable progress in the last decade, and many indicators are above African peers, but still far below developed countries. For example, life expectancy at 64.6 years for males and 69.4 years for females in 2019. This is above the African average, but low in global terms. To go to the next level, Kenya healthcare sector needs upgrade of facilities and equipment, better standards of care, and to continue to move into patient-centered ethical practices. When we talk about quality of care, Kenya has adopted the Kenya quality model for health. We have organizations that have taken third-party accreditation such as JCI, SafeCare, and so on. We're moving in the right direction, but there's still more work that needs to be done. And but we're seeing that there's aggressive sort of movement in that direction, which is a very positive move. IFC is part of the World Bank group. World Bank is more government facing. IFC is private sector facing. And thus you see our affiliation with Kenya Healthcare Federation, which is the voice of the private sector. And we're trying to push that voice and make sure that as serving 50% of healthcare needs in Kenya, that we're progressing in the right direction and moving as a force, having engagement with national entities to make sure private sector needs are addressed. IFC is one of the largest investors in healthcare sector in emerging markets. Our current global portfolio is over 3 billion USD. In Africa and Kenya in particular, IFC may be known for investing in HHI, AAR, Lagoon Hospital in Nigeria, Lancet in South Africa, and others. In addition to investment, we have advisory services, and this is where Joseph, Rukwara, and I come in, and other special programs that promote high quality, affordable, and ethical healthcare. For example, our IFC Healthcare Quality Advisory, which helps improve the quality and safety of healthcare services, where we go in and assess and provide recommendations. ETHIC, which is ethical principles in healthcare. 10 concise, pragmatic, and universally applicable principles to promote ethical conduct in the sector. Now there are nearly 200 signatories that manage over 4,000 medical facilities across the world. The IFC AMEF program, this is why we're here today. I want to talk about one of our special initiatives, which we would like to reach the next tier of healthcare service providers in partnership with local banks and medical equipment vendors. It's named the Africa Medical Equipment Facility. Once again, we were born out of COVID, where we were addressing a need where we saw healthcare facilities purchasing or making really extensive medical equipment purchases, but the relationship that they had with financiers and then with the medical equipment providers was short-standing, so to speak. And so we wanted to strengthen that as well, and to make sure that people are making more informed decisions around their procurement practices. Medical facilities complain. Financing terms are unattractive, rate is too high, and tenor too short. Banks complain the sector is too risky, borrowers don't have good financial records, And then OEMs complain, banks don't understand medical equipment and it takes forever to get external financing. IFC comes in with AMF to close that gap. The opportunity is significant. According to Fitch Solutions, data, medical equipment, and consumables market in Kenya will grow from 130 million in 2020 up to $180 million in 2025. AMF is a partnership, and we have started. Our partners in Kenya are Cooperative Bank. We have 10 OEMs that we work with, and we're looking to expand the pool as we move along. So speaking to this slide, we currently operate in Cote d'Ivoire and in Kenya. Our key bank in Kenya is Co-op Bank. We have NC and BCC in Cote d'Ivoire, and we are that link in terms of advisory and investment as IFC, and we connect HSMEs to OEMs, Getinge, Carl Stores, Philips, GE, One for Newsoft, Electa, Biomirio, and I know Dr. Sigay is here online. I'm glad to have you here, and Siemens and Mindray. And we're seeing that our HSMEs on the ground are where we do periodic trainings in different regions in Kenya, where we are pulling HSMEs to the OEMs and to the bank to start that conversation, strategic conversation, so that they are more informed and are able to make more informed decisions around medical procurement within their healthcare organizations. We've seen people purchase extensive equipment, CT scans, MRIs, and so on, to the level of anesthesia machines and so on, to upper equip their maternity facilities and so on. So we've seen a broad spectrum and a range, and but at the end of the day, it's about touching lives and actually making impact to the people that we're serving as well. Joseph, over to you.
Thank you very much for that detailed explanation, Faith. And I think one of the takeaways from what Faith is saying, the AMF program, the African Medical Equipment Facility Program, was invented to make it easier for facilities, for small and medium healthcare facilities in the region where we work, which one of the regions is Kenya, to be able to procure equipment at a reasonable financing rate. And I think this is where Co-op Bank comes in. So think about it as being a matchmaker. We actually take the bank, we take the equipment manufacturer or the distributor, and we put them together in a room along with the facility that wishes to outfit. Because one of the things that we're actually realizing is that we can no longer buy things and procure equipment the way we used to do it 15, 20 years ago. I mean, we can't just keep taking cash out of pocket and things like that, because we have other things inside the facility that needs to be run. So what we need to do is develop a strategic plan for the procurement of medical equipment. And a lot of us don't do that. I can tell you, as director to a hospital years ago, I did not think about this. The equipment came, my nurses and doctors told me they needed something, I went out and bought it. There was no strategic plan to do it. Now there has to be a strategic plan for you to actually go out and purchase equipment. So basically, what we have to now look at is what is involved in a strategic plan, right? What do we think about when we put together a procurement plan for medical equipment for your facility or for your hospital? Well, there's 4 things that I usually look at. Number 1, what are the challenges in medical equipment procurement across the scale? Number 2, what is the importance of strategic planning? Number 3, what are the considerations that we have to put into for the procurement strategies? And number 4, how do we adopt strategic trends to ensure that we are future ready for our healthcare ecosystem in East Africa, in Kenya, in fact, throughout all of Africa? So number 1, the key challenges that I see in procuring equipment in Kenya and Africa is basically, they're under a couple of things. We know that over 90% of the equipment that we buy in Africa is imported from the US, from Germany, from Sweden, from Europe. And that poses a particular problem to people in Africa, because what that does is, unless we have relationships with a reputable distributor, let's say like Crown, unless we have those kinds of relationships, sometimes we are ignorant about what it is that we're actually purchasing. The second challenge is that global supply chain disruptions interrupt our purchasing ability here in Africa. If now we're saying that 90% of equipment is imported from the US, from Germany, from Europe, and there's an interruption in that supply chain, it will interrupt the purchase of equipment again, unless we have specific relationships here in Africa. And that's what AMIF program has done. It's created relationships between the HSMEs, which is the facility, and the OEMs, which are the critical manufacturers and the producers of medical equipment. And number three, one of the other big challenges in medical equipment procurement is the lack of technical expertise. I hear from hospitals, we were just in Nakuru, and we heard from hospitals, hey, we find it hard to hire biomedical engineer to service our equipment. There's not the expertise on ground that we would expect to see. There's inadequate technical knowledge within the healthcare facilities, and that can pose challenges in selecting, operating, and maintaining complex medical equipment. How many hospitals have had broken equipment sitting in their basements and they don't know how to use it, they don't know how to fix it, the buttons are missing because they don't have the technical expertise to fix, to maintain, or to run that piece of equipment. Some other secondary things are regulatory barriers, reactive planning. Reactive planning I speak very, very much about, because proactive planning enables us in healthcare to prepare for the future. Reactive planning puts us on the backside of planning. And this is what we've done in Africa for a long time, is we wake up one morning, a piece of equipment is broken, and we rush out to buy another one. We're not thinking to ourselves, okay, I'm in a situation in Kenya where there's no other optical surgeon, there's no other cancer center, there's no other ICU. Let me figure out how I can proactively plan to guarantee procurement of these kinds of equipment so that in the next 2, 5, 10, 15 years, I'll be set within this medical ecostructure. We also have inadequacy in benchmarking practices. Navigating complex regulatory requirements and compliance standards can impede the procurement process, leading to delays in acquiring necessary medical equipment and services. And so we need to establish benchmark practices for buying equipment. Not just buying equipment, why are we buying the equipment? We just don't go out and buy a CAT scan just to say that we have a 128 slice CAT scan. What patients are going to go on there? Are you in the right patient population? Yeah, my friend, my colleague Faith tells the story all the time about building an obstetric center in a geographic location where the average age is 45 to 50. That makes absolutely no sense. That's inadequate benchmarking practices. And then also the big one that we address in the IFC is deficient quality measurement standards. We buy the equipment, we don't think about the quality measurements, that the measurements that have to be placed around that equipment to create safe patient standards. In order to compete effectively in the market, we in Africa healthcare organization need to ensure that we deliver better services than our competitors in order to get more patients. Also, patient satisfaction reflects in the right image of the healthcare facility or the organization. So if we start talking about proactive planning, which sets in motion what we're going to purchase to actually put inside our hospital, we need to start talking about planning and improvement. We need to identify the equipment, and how do we market that equipment? Do we just buy a piece of equipment that no one knows that we have it? We want to build an ICU, we build the ICU, and we haven't taken advantage of the marketing for that ICU, right? What's our brand positioning? What is our mission, our value statement? A lot of times these things go completely unchecked because we're in such a hurry to set up this piece of equipment that we've forgotten that the foundations have to be there. We have to leverage the market opportunity. So if you're sitting in an area where the average age of your patient is 50, then you're not thinking obstetric, you're thinking vascular, you're thinking cardiac, you're thinking orthopedics, you're thinking, how can I stay ahead of the curve? How can I have a competitive advantage and market? One of the things that the IFC program does is we actually provide strategic advisory services in a lot of the quality benchmarking that I'm talking about. How do you enhance patient care and outcomes? How do you instill strategic planning and investment? How do we have informed decision-making, right? With insights from market projection, facilities can identify which technology will best meet the patient's need. So if you're looking at obstetric, do you need a 2D? Do you need a 3D machine? Do you need a 5-dimensional ultrasound machine? And where are you going to put that equipment? How many patients are you going to be turning over? All that competes in the advisement category, and IFC, along myself and Matenga, do plan that. Now, really quickly, as we're talking about future planning, one of the things that we're looking at is what's the future of healthcare in Kenya? Now, if we look at statisticmarkets.com, which is a brilliant source of medical statistics throughout the world, data has shown, right, that, and the most recent data was updated in May of 2024, that the oncoming market in Kenya is cardiology services. Why is that? Faith mentioned that this was born out of COVID. In COVID, we were all sitting around, right? Our productivity, our mobility went down, right? Our weight sometimes went up, right? COVID actually also spawned a lot of cardiac deficiencies that we're now seeing today. We know that looking at OEMs, that cardiology devices, right, are going to be driven by what happened in COVID. Also going to be driven by the fact that people are living longer, we have a longer lifespan, so cardiac issues are going to present themselves. So cath labs, cardiac ultrasound, wellness, all that, if we look at this, is on the forefront. So if I were a businessman, which I am, I would say, if I have the money to procure anything right now, it's going to be something that has to do with cardiac. Even though I do everything else, let me embed something that has to do with cardiac in my hospital or in my facilities. And that's followed closely by diagnostic imaging devices, whether it be ultrasound, CAT scan, gamma knives, gamma radiation, something like that. Those are the things that are coming up in the future. Now, this is driven by growing awareness of the benefits of using modern medical technology. We're not using the old 2D ultrasound anymore. Now we have cardiac ultrasounds that do strain rates, they do tissue harmonics, they do tissue generalization. They actually look at the variability of the tissue within the heart, all with an ultrasound. And this is where our OEMs come in. So if we look at this, our medical device market in Kenya was about 300 million, right? Kenya Cardiology Services by 2029 is supposed to be projected to go up to 401.2 million USD, right? So that is a significant, if we're studying the actual plan, that is a significant increase. What future trends are you watching in your facility? That's what I want to ask you. What future trends are you paying attention to? Because if you're not paying attention to the future, we're guaranteed to be, it's going to leave us behind, right? It's definitely going to leave us behind. So what benchmarking tools does your facility right now employ, right, to help you pick out the right equipment, to help you go to the right original equipment manufacturer or the right distributor, to help you say, okay, here's where I'm going to place my benchmark, and here is where my growth is expected in 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, we have to look at things like pricing, utilization, the payer and the player mix, the patient and payer mix, predictivity and efficiency of your facility, what revenue you're bringing in, what expenses are you sending out, and what is the profitability margin, right? So I'm going to actually ask my friend Matenge, because Matenge is part of our advisory group, and his speciality is the financial part because he has been a CEO and a CFO of companies. Matenge, what would you say is our biggest downfall, our biggest mistakes when it comes to financing in purchasing medical equipment? Where are we falling down on the block?
Okay, I think, Joe, I would approach it from 2 angles. Number one is from a HSME perspective. I think one of the biggest failures that I do see on a day-to-day basis is lack of proper planning. In lack of proper planning is understanding one, what is your total cost of capital for acquiring equipment and running it. And then secondly, tying up the total cost of capital vis-a-vis uh, the revenues, and not only revenues, and we'll talk about that later, but actually the profitability generated by that equipment. And say, for example, just to give a a simple example, say for example you are running a boutique hospital. You have got maybe profitability of about 30 million in a year, and you decide you're gonna buy an MRI machine, which is gonna cost you maybe about 2.5 million Kenyan shillings per month to finance the room that is cost and principal. You may look at the cash flows that you're generating from your entire business and think, oh, I can comfortably pay this. But you need to remember that one, in case this MRI does not generate enough cash flows to cater for its operating costs, that is things like electricity, consumables, staff, and then you pay the loan, then you might find that you have taken back your business to a financial hole because you'll be forced to dig into your pocket to finance an equipment that is not ready. So it is very important that you do a feasibility study, do a business case, and make sure that all the numbers add up. The second challenge, and also a mistake that I see, is the failure to choose the right financing product. Sometimes you may be comparing a dealer payment plan as part of financing, which will of course come with a premium, and then maybe something like a bank loan. Then you will find that while the bank loan you will pay a bit more over a prolonged period, then you find at least the cash outflows per month or per year are less than what you'll be paying for dealer financing. So you might find the dealer financing, when you calculate the interest, it might be maybe 5 to 10% later, lower. But then again, if you put in the monthly cash flows, it's totally different between financing maybe 5 million shillings per month when you're HSME in 2 years, vis-a-vis financing, 2.3 million per month over 5 years.
Wow. And all that has to be thought about, or it would be thought about before you even thought about the type, the equipment and everything else. And I think that is where we in the IFC advisory come strong, is because we can utilize someone like Matenge to actually guide you in, have you thought about X, Y, and Z before you decide to purchase this piece of equipment, right? So something else to add to that, and we mentioned the quality practice. We are very deep into healthcare quality. The IFC has a special team that Faith and I belong to that especially dive into quality. And a lot of people, a lot of CEOs, a lot of physicians, a lot of clinicians like myself, when we're purchasing medical equipment, we didn't think about the quality practice. We just thought we need something, we'll buy it, we'll do it. And that gets us into trouble. There are basically 5 things that you need to think about when it comes to the quality of your practice before you even think about purchasing equipment. It's product, it's process, it's procedure, it's premises, and it's people, right? So if you look at product is all the equipment and components that should have been clearly defined, right? Ensuring quality at all times before you decide to purchase your equipment. If you're purchasing, let's say, a new software system for your hospital, right? And we'll talk about that later. We actually have one of the software development for a hospital system in South Africa that I want to give a chance to speak in a bit. But if you are doing that, have you thought about those specifications and how they adhere to the quality? I'm buying an X-ray machine, all right? What does that have to do with your quality? Are your people trained? Are your SOPs best clinical practices? And I'm talking about simple SOPs, from a PA lateral chest to a cath lab procedure. Is this a quality practice, right? So you have to think about this. The next one is the process. All your processes should be clear, consistent, and well documented, right? Because if they're not clear, if they're not consistent, and if they're well documented, they are of inferior quality. I always tell people, here's how I know that my process is clear, consistent, and well documented. If a team from another hospital came to my hospital to practice medicine, and all they had was my policies, my protocols, and my processes, would they be able to practice medicine following those? And if the answer is no, we need to relook at your protocols. The third one is your processes. You need to, your procedures. You need to establish a set of guidelines performing a critical process to achieve consistent results. What are your standard operating procedures like? And simple as an abdominal ultrasound. One of the things that I've learned from the nurses that I've practiced with is that nothing is quality if everyone is not doing the same thing. Everyone that does an abdominal ultrasound should be doing the same exam, the same way, at the same time, right? And so that's how we tell quality. Your premises, where's your equipment going? Sometimes you order brand new equipment and it's going in a premises that it should not be going in. There's improper ventilation. The floors are substandard. There's patient hazard and patient fall hazard all over the place. Is there proper storage for the equipment? Is there regular calibration going on in the premises? These are all crucial to ensure the optimal functionality of where you're putting these things. And lastly, the people. Training for all employees should be undergone to enhance understanding of their roles and the importance of their contributions to quality. Quality is not just the job of the quality manager in your hospital. It's not just the job of the CEO. It's not just the job of the nurse. Quality is the job of everyone that works under that roof, from the person that answers the phone to the person that is in the theater with that patient. All are responsible for the same quality practice. So
I'll just add that as you're bringing this topic, number one, I'm looking at the chat group that KHF will be sending out the presentation. So for all who have put their contacts there, Martin, if you could just take them so that we can send the presentation to them. But just building on quality in terms of healthcare financing, infrastructure, human resource that is competent, medical equipment, supply chain, technology, and then the right partnership. Public and private partnerships is ensuring that you have a mechanism to self-audit all these elements. So you can put SOPs in place. These are just documents, but are we using them? Are we measuring how we're using them? And are we responding to the data that comes out of that measurement, so that we're making sure that we are ensuring that practice is up to par? So just building on Joseph's comments is you can't change what you can't measure. So you need to be eliciting information and responding to that information and making sure that your health professionals or your staff in the front line are in tune with that data and are responsive to building on solutions with management, with executive management, to actually make sure that your system is safe. Rukwaro, I think, has his hand up.
Please.
Thank you, Faith and Joseph. And I wanted just to back up that point of making sure that you are ready for the equipment that you're procuring, and this speaks to the being future ready. Number one is, for example, when we talk about ensuring that where you're gonna install the equipment is ready. It's not just having a building in place. For example, if you're gonna buy equipment that require nuclear bodies regulation, you need to make sure that the building is of the right quality, involve the OEM who is supplying that equipment. Otherwise, I have seen many times that people have brought in equipment and the facilities were not right, and then you start paying the cost of either storage or the bank is telling you need to start paying. But also, I think when you buy equipment, also think about in the future, regulatory environment that may come into place. Look at the macroeconomic environment. Cost of financing will always be volatile. Interest rates are not, usually stable in markets like this, unless when they were controlled. But just speaking to that about thinking about the future, I think, for example, one of the biggest challenges that people who bought medical equipment, especially at level 4 and above hospitals, they are facing a challenge of very low utilization of that equipment because of what we all know what has happened with the current hot topic right now, and especially with the referral system. So it's always good to look at the macroeconomic environment, look at the regulatory environment wherever it is going, so that you can make an informed decision on whether you need to make your facility ready for the changes that are coming, or maybe you need to hold on to the equipment until the regulatory, environment stabilizes and business goes back to normal.
100%. Thank you, Matenge, for that. And I think that goes towards what we were talking about as, future planning is not reactive planning. It's proactive planning. It's looking at the market, like my colleague Matenge has said, and trying to delve into the market, which direction you should go on. Now, luckily, as I said, the IFC Advisory Service is here to support you. We have a lot of free stuff that's online. We have customers and processes. We have online trainings. We have webinars such as this one who are kept on recording, all for you to access. Our online training includes things like performance management, how to safety culture your facility. What is the culture of safety in your facility? We include things like how to manage incidences in your facility, how to improve communication. Communication is the biggest killer of patients worldwide, lack of proper communication. Medication management. And we also look at quality management. Now, the importance of strategic planning, one of the things that I always go back to is, we talk about future-proofing our facilities, but some of our facilities are still operating in the past. Somebody that I really admire, Dr. David Moen, he is the Director of Innovation for a large clinic in Florida. And he says the future of care includes different delivery models. Think phone, internet, group visit, a greater focus on patients' behavior, and far more team-oriented approach. All that is saying is that we need to start thinking in the future. We cannot sit here and write patients' record on our hands, on notepads, on these exhaustive notepads that have to be stored someplace. What are we doing when it comes to software adoption, the future of software adoption? Are we anticipating the upcoming technological advances in the market? And one of the biggest things in the healthcare market is the utilization of software. I have on the line with me my good colleague, Praneen, and Praneen is going to introduce himself and his company. And Praneen, I just want you to tell us why do we have to look at software as a future benchmark for hospitals? What's so important about software when it comes to hospitals nowadays? Because we weren't thinking about this 10 years ago. Why all of a sudden are we talking about software in hospital management? Praneen, over to you. Praneen, are you there? I think he may be having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Hold on one second. Okay, well, I'm going to continue, and hopefully when he comes back, he will let me know. But the anticipating upcoming technological advancements, we have to start looking at and actually listening to and reading market research and technology scanning. What do I mean? We regularly have to analyze the market. We regularly have to look at the emerging technologies in the healthcare sector. And I'll give you an example. If any of you are in the imaging sector, we know that right now teleimaging is one of the biggest offshoots of business in healthcare. How do we image in one center and read in another center? And a lot of people are like, well, we have the internet, we can go Google, but now it has to be patient secure. Now it has to enable me to make the same measurements that I would make if I was sitting at the side of that, at the workstation of that CT, to reconstitute three-dimensional images, right? To send something all the way to America to be read that you're having issues with, right? This is upcoming technology. advancement. We have to have collaborative partnerships with innovators and suppliers, maintain those relationships with leading technology providers. Sometimes it costs you nothing to have a technology provider actually come into your facility and give a talk on what is upcoming when it comes to technology, right? It doesn't cost you anything. And then we need to implement a flexible and scalable procurement framework with these kinds of technological advances in mind. So we need to design a procurement strategy that is adaptable to changing and capable of scaling up with the technological advances. Let me tell you where a lot of us go wrong. We want a hospital HIS system, a patient management system. We go out and buy the cheapest thing there is, right? We install it in our hospital. In 3 years, we discover that it's out of style. In 3 years, we discovered that it will no longer work with a lot of the PACS system, a lot of the things that we're actually installing in our hospital. So now we have to go through the added cost to pull everything out, right? And replace it with a brand new system where if we had done the research and the market analysis before, we would have known exactly what the hospital needs. So I think that there is where we need to focus is on the future. Okay, Faith, I'm going to stop right there for a second. Can we, are there any questions in the chat that we need to address? Hello, Faith?
Hi, Joseph. Just
Yes.
looking. No, I think there's nothing to address. Everything, everybody just wants a copy of the presentation. That's what I'm
Okay.
getting. Yeah,
Okay.
online. Yeah.
No worries, no worries. Then I want to have Mtenge, I mean, this slide that I have up now, I think Mtenge, you can speak to the allocate budget. Let me go back. Okay. If we talk about implementing a flexible and scalable procurement framework, we have 4 steps. We have design it, create it, plan it, and then what are the benefits from it? We have to develop, a lot of you don't have, and I've spoken to a lot of physicians and a lot of CEOs in Kenya, in South Africa, in Africa, and there is no, a lot of you don't have a procurement framework. There is no set way that you go to procurement. I can tell you that when I learned my lesson, we had a procurement team, which consists of finance, consists of biomed, and some other people. And we actually sat down at the table and graded the things we're about to procure using everything that Faith Mtenge and I just said. So we developed a procurement policy also that allowed for upgrades and phased implementation of new technology, right? We created a technology roadmap that said, where does this hospital want to go in 2, 3, 4 years? I had a CEO at one of our last trainings that came to me and he said, look, I've done this roadmap that you're talking about, and I've discovered I want to go into the IVF business because where I am, it's rich and it's vibrant with people that are trying to get pregnant. And I think I can do this based on the roadmap I've just created. I applauded him because he took the 2, 3 years to research the market to figure out if IVF would actually make money. Would he get an ROI, return on investment? Number 3, we have to plan. We have to allocate budget for technology innovation and establish a dedicated team for procurement and integration of new technologies. Mtenge, where does, just out of curiosity, on the procurement team, where does that finance person come in? Is that important to have a finance person on your procurement team?
Yes, definitely, Joseph. It is very important to have a procurement person from in your procurement team. And number one is that the finance person helps you to avoid surprises in future. As I had spoken earlier, you need to look at your activity, look at your revenue, look at your cost, look at your profitability, and the cost of maintenance going into the future. And the finance person helps you to make a decision to say, for example, vis-a-vis procure an equipment with the extended warranty, or procure equipment with 1 year warranty, procure equipment with 1 year warranty and then no maintenance agreement, you do it yourself, or to have a maintenance agreement and what will that mean into your financials and your equipment, longevity. Secondly, a good finance person is able to, give you a scenario of what will it cost your business if you do not do some of these things and it results into equipment downtime. They should be able to come up with a financial model that says, if we take AMC, the service not taking AMC, this is the likely scenario, and we know 100% that will happen, right? Then secondly, the finance person should be a thought leader in terms of number one, procuring, right? And procuring competitively. Why have I combined those two things? We always say expensive doesn't mean that is the best quality, but also cheap does not mean that it will give you the best result. So you should be able to, to be able to purchase competitively, provoke the talk, and come up with scenarios. If we bought an equipment that doesn't have, local OEM support, and let me just use an example of a CT scan, and the tube goes down, and it's the most expensive item. Then are you gonna fly back to China to go and look for a tube, maybe for a guy that doesn't even have spares in the facility? And then of course, from a profitability perspective, the finance person should be able to tell you, will you be able to afford this financing? If you're self-financing, what is the impact on your operational cash flows? Will it impact your day-to-day operations? So yes, finance people are very, very important, and not only important, they should be thought readers, provoking people to think about the decisions that they make in procurement and the impact, that they have. To me, the current finance resource should also be thinking about if equipment that is future ready. I do believe that, and I don't think we can escape it. We're gonna have intelligent equipment coming into play, coming into future. Then if you're gonna buy equipment now, the finance person should be able to provoke thoughts and let people think, what will be the cost of either replacing this equipment 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, vis-a-vis maybe buying at a higher premium, but knowing we have got equipment that is technologically ready maybe for the next 6 to 7 years.
I like that.
There's a question here that when are you opening up for new companies to join this facility? This facility has been going on for the last 2 years. So it's about identifying your equipment needs and for us to link you up with the bank, with the OEMs that are under our portfolio, to keep the conversation going and move the conversation forward. So this is actually an active facility that is running. I think one of the things also to add on to what my colleague was saying is that we are trying to build systems that work. So a multidisciplinary approach to how decisions are made in terms of, do you have a procurement team? It's not just finance, it's your clinical experts who are identifying the needs. It's making sure you have a feasibility study to make sure that as you procure, it will add value within your set environment and so on and so forth. So we're not advocating for just procurement, but making the right decisions within your set environment to support the community that you're serving, so that your business is successful.
And Faith, you said something really interesting when you were talking about the question that was on the chat about when are we adding new OEMs. I think that's what they meant. One of the things we discovered is that the OEMs that we have on there are all unless you have a different kind of clinic, if you're doing a dermatology clinic or a ophthalmic clinic, and we're working on those. But the OEMs, we've thought carefully about the OEMs that we've put on their AMF. And What we found out, even this week, I was working with an MF client, and they're like, we didn't know that this manufacturer that you have supplied this. So what we do is we put you in touch with the OEMs, and then we help walk you through the process so you're not left alone. So you don't have to flounder there alone. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to mention. And Matenge, thank you for what you said also about budgeting for future technology. And I'm going to add something to this. I've dealt with ultrasound as an obstetric specialist for years. And one of the things I know they have now, and I was guiding a hospital in South Africa through this purchase. And now the ultrasound machines are capable of pulling, if you, a patient, have had a CAT scan or an MRI, and that patient name goes into the ultrasound machine, the AI in that machine knows that that patient in your system has had a test, and it can actually go online to pull that test result and the images to compare it to the ultrasound that you're doing today. Okay, that's an AI. However, that is a function that needs to be budgeted for, because first of all, it's not an inexpensive function, but it's going to save you money in the long run. Because to be honest with you, what you usually do, what I do, is when I read an ultrasound, and I used to do this quite often, is then I'd call the film room or the file room or try to look up, when was this patient's last CT? You'd assign a film room crew to it or a porter to it. Now that's taking a valuable time and income and money and human capital. So what Matenge is trying to say is, think about this thing before you do it. Have your finance person sit down with you and say, hey, is this going to be worth the extra money that I'm going to put into this? Make sure that the facility can actually plan for future technological changes. Now, the key considerations for procurement strategy are a couple of things, and we go through this in the class that we teach as AMEF, as African Medical Equipment Facility. Number one is the needs assessment. We need to identify specific equipment needs, right? What are the needs? You don't just go out and buy something. I mean, it's not like you're going out just to buy groceries, right? If you're buying a CT or an MRI, you have to think carefully through that. If it's an MRI, do I need a 0.5 Tesla? Do I need a 1 Tesla? Do I need a 3 Tesla? I've seen people waste money on a 3 Tesla, and they could have gotten away really well with a 1 Tesla CT. And there's a huge difference there depending on which brand you put. Just like CAT scans, I've seen people buy 128 slice CT CAT scan. They do no 3D, they do no arterial work, they do no cardiac. And I'm like, then why did you purchase this? Oh, because it looked good and we could afford it. That money would have been best put someplace else. So the healthcare facility needs to ensure that they acquire the right tools to meet the patient demand and the operation requirements, right? So, and what is that patient demand and operational requirement? It takes us back to technological advances in procurement, digital procurement platforms, telemedicine and remote diagnostics. A lot of labs now are being outfitted even with microscopes that you can actually broadcast the image on those microscopes anywhere you want it to go. It's remote diagnostics. And I always say there's 2 departments that a hospital needs to invest heavily into, and it's their laboratory and their diagnostic. And then AI. I know it's a bad word for a lot of you, and for a lot of you, it's like a candy and a baby in a candy factory, right? AI, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it is necessary, and you're going to have to think into the future. If I go back to the modality that I'm used to, ultrasound, there's now an AI in ultrasound that'll tell my technologist what to scan. First do the internal carotid, then go to the next one, and it will actually move her through the exam so she doesn't forget anything and actually analyze the measurements after she's done them or he's done them. This is where the future is going. My question is, are you ready for the future? Are you ready for it? I want to end, before I open it up for questions, with a case study. A very good friend of mine, Dr. Earl Braithwaite, he is the CEO and founder of a clinic in Trinidad in the Caribbean, where I'm from, and it's called the Venus Clinic. He built one of the first clinics for women, and it's turned into a hospital. So basically, when we were talking about purchasing equipment, and he's not part of the AMF program because this is in Trinidad and the Caribbean, he went through a comprehensive needs assessment. I want to build a hospital, he says. What area would be best served? So he traveled from Barbados to Trinidad. He conducted detailed evaluations to identify the essential medical equipment, the medical needs, and the supplies that were required. Then the next thing he does, he collaborated with partners, partnership with the local and international suppliers. He partnered with GE and other diverse suppliers to ensure that there was a wide range of quality products at the hospital that he was building for women, right? Number three, he had a phased procurement approach. He didn't just buy everything at the same time. He implemented a structured procurement process to manage the limited budget effectively over different stages until upscaling was possible. He and his team got together and designed our approach that said, year one, this is what we buy. Year two, we open up IVF. Year three, we open up myomectomy surgery. Number four, he had a sustainability plan. What secondary and anchor services could he add in the next 3 years? So he decided when he's building a women's hospital, year 3 and 4, he added women's health, he added prenatal care. Year 5 and 6, he added psychology and pediatrics. And finally, he added nutritional support along with the fibroid surgery. And then very last thing he did was he needed to bring together and make sure that his staff was well educated and well supported. So he provides house training to enhance the skills of his staff in operating new equipment. And he partners with the manufacturer to do that, and also ensures optimal utilization of his equipment. And he's a personal friend of mine. He always says, to be real, I have not enjoyed all my days as doctor, but I get up and do it again and again because tomorrow is a new day. Okay, so I'm going to end with that. And then Faith, I'm going to open it up for any questions that the audience may have that may be on the chat or maybe on live. And if Pernille, if you can hear, if you're still on there, Pernille, I'm not sure you were having technical difficulties, you can please interrupt us to tell us that you're here. But if not, Faith, we can go on with some questions.
So I'll just bring in one comment that Afya Hub Kenya had. Challenge is getting a finance person who understands the medical, oh my goodness, who understands the medical, oh my goodness, who understands the medical market or components of a proper feasibility study for SMEs. And then the second question is, I understand the critical role that robust medical equipment procurement processes and integrated healthcare management information systems play in improving healthcare delivery in Africa. What specific financing strategies or partnerships can be established to ensure that hospitals, especially in underserved areas, can access high quality compliant medical devices whilst simultaneously adopting HMIS to streamline operations and enhance equipment life cycle management? That's Amos Gideon. Biomedical engineering technologists, medical devices. Madenge, I think a lot is on the financing, and I think this is the gap that we have been trying to solve in terms of the bank doesn't understand the operator. The operator doesn't understand what the bank needs. And so as advisory, we come in to make sure that the healthcare organizations have put in the correct the correct information to advise the bank that they are suitable to actually get this facility. But I'll have Madenge address this in a sense. And once again, I used to work for a firm, SafeCare, where that was the quality indicator to say, this is the report card to say how this facility is operating. And so you can trust it with the information that you get so that you can actually invest in it. And that's the conversation that we're trying to bridge and accentuate in terms of quality, money, healthcare services, and then trust from the bank. But Badenge, Joseph, please move. Please feel free to comment.
I think this one goes to Metenge.
Okay, thanks, Faith. And because I can see we're almost out of time, this will probably include my closing remarks. I think number one, from available solutions in terms of financing. Let me say, start from where we are. I think that the problem is especially the industry is faced by challenges where especially mainstream banks do not understand the industry in itself. When I say that, what do I mean? It's number one, our industry is largely not a cash business. It's not a walk-in, walk-out, pay cash, and then money is in the bank. Sometimes most of the, the revenue is cyclical in terms of payment. And sometimes when people are trying to access finance, you see banks, raising a lot of questions and disqualifying healthcare providers on technicalities. You also find, unlike things like motor vehicles, where financial institutions are willing to take them as a collateral. People have shied away from using medical equipment as collateral. And I think on that aspect, it was an innovative product, even thinking about it, because now when you buy equipment through AMEF, which is the only product in the market right now that does that, then you do not need to pay for, to provide collateral. You do not need to pay, 20, 30, 40% deposit that I see banks asking, yet you have the equipment. So I think the market is evolved, and I think I'm proud that AMEF is taking that lead. And to the person who asked whether, what products are there, I think to me, one of the greatest satisfactions so far is seeing, a 30-bed facility in Lulo Kitare able to acquire a theater equipment worth 2 million shillings at the AMEF. And then hearing the story that I have gone from doing 2 surgeries to 10 surgeries, within a specific period in time. So I think we should be able to see more innovations, coming up. Say, for example, I am seeing some equipment from sellers and OEMs say, we can use your revenue as payment for the cost of this equipment until we get there. So the market is evolving, and I think it will be critical, especially for the industry organizations such as KHF, that we come here maybe to probably engage the financial institution from an industry perspective, because we have seen other industries, big financial institutions, to even come up with more friendly rates for their members. So I think there's a data there that you can utilize as an industry, and also, to me, as I said, it's just a question of looking at the available partnerships in the market. Be there at this particular moment, IFC, and I do believe our banking partners are willing to work with you with that journey. And I would actually encourage healthcare providers to shy away to say, because my bank is not in a certain program, I cannot talk to this bank. To me, it is easier to move a relationship to access finance rather than paying more costly or having unfair returns, and you have to think about that. Regarding the question on lack of finance people who understand the industry, I do understand that is a challenge. I think just as hospital owners really invest in training their clinicians on quality, what new developments in terms of medicine, you also need to invest not only on your finance people, but also on other admin departments. Because, for example, the person who is doing billing, that is revenue cycle management, needs to understand, the impact of not having everything built or what is the repercussions of things like exclusions by the insurance industry. So to me is you may say training is expensive, especially when it is not related to a direct generator of revenue. But believe you me, at the end of the day, it has an impact. And I do believe, there are available partners that people can look for, that can train their people, develop dashboards for them, of course, at a cost. But then that is something that as a hospital owner, you need to reflect on it and implement those strategies, because I do believe at the end of the day, finance is part and parcel of every decision you make, whether it's IT, whether it's procurement, whether it's HR, whether it's clinical, whether it is marketing. You can't run away from finance.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that. I know that one of our participants was the software guru that was trying to speak and he couldn't. Pranil, can you see if you can speak now? I think Martin has addressed that issue. Can you see if you can speak?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. And we're going to take these last closing moments, Faith, before you close us up, to have Pranil introduce himself. And please, can you just go into just really, really brief, why is software important for hospitals now, and why is looking forward into the future mean just not picking something off the shelf?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Joe. Apologies to everyone for that. I was having some technical issues. I had to join from a different computer. So I'm Pranil from Proactive Source. We do bespoke software development. We're specializing in healthcare organizations. Basically, with regards to what Dr. Joe has been asking us, the leverage of technology is crucial to address the healthcare challenges in South Africa, because there's a lot of things that now are integrating with it. For example, we've got telemedicine that works with software, where video consultations can increase access to healthcare services, especially in rural areas. Electro health records, streamline patients' data management, which can improve diagnosis and treatment. Mobile health applications. This will be able to it'll be able to assist us in accessing patient files and prompting patients' engagements with us. Artificial intelligence can aid us to do disease diagnosis, predictions, and personal treatments. You got your data analytics, you got your online healthcare education, you got virtual reality, and you got obviously 3D printing. That's all designed with software. With regards with software, it also empowers the healthcare staff through continuous learning via LMS systems, where they'll have course management, personalized training paths, automated reminders, collaboration tools, assessment and tracking, reporting and analytics, integration, mobile capabilities, compliance training, and centralized platforms. These all, obviously, the whole reason why we're having this webinar and having this type of discussions is because we want to serve our patients much better. Whether it be in the rural area or in the town, we want to give them the best care possible. But yes, technology is growing on a vast rate, and we need to play catch up with that as well. And this is where us at Proactive, with Dr. Joe, we work collaborative with each another to make sure that this happens no matter where it is in Africa. Also, with regards to the bespoke hospital software, the reason why this plays such a key factor is because it's customizable. Compared to the systems that you buy off the shelf, you have to basically buy either the full package, whether you're using quarter of package. It works out actually cheaper, because other than off-the-shelf systems where you still have to pay your annual licenses per user, this system belongs to you. So if one hospital in Kenya wants to purchase a software with a hospital information system, it's tailor-made for them. Whether they have 16 departments or 8 departments that are going to use this, it's tailor-made for them. There's no extra license fees. There's just your normal maintenance that will happen on the system. We can integrate it with a lot of your current systems that you are using. It has scalability to it. It improves patient care because it makes things a lot easier, where we can even add voice to text for nurses' notes or doctors' notes. It enhances your data security. You have streamlined options, real-time analytics. That's with regards to your your audits that you might be having on a monthly or quarterly basis. It has a user-friendly interface, so nobody's going to get confused where they need to go, how they need to do this. It'll be streamlined. And then it also has your competitive advantages. It will not hospital group, yes, everything is tailor-made for them specifically.
Interesting. Thank you, Pranil. Thank you. And I think basically what Pranil, to sum up what he's saying, is you're going to have to invest in some kind of software. And why not invest in a software that is particularly tailor-made for your hospital? Because as you move forward, it can change with you. And this goes back to financing. We don't want to throw out the bathwater with the baby, right? So we want to basically make a system that will grow with our hospital. Thank you very much. And those of you, and I'm going to turn this over to Faith to finish up, but those of you who wish to, one, have the contact to the IFC's portals for basically the quality trainings, the online trainings that we do, I'm sure you can reach out to KHF and they will provide you with it. Any contacts, whether it be myself, Faith, Matenge, Pranil from Proactive Source Software, please reach out and we will make sure that you have those kinds of contact. Faith, over to you.
Thanks, Joseph. Martin has shared the link for you to be able to access this presentation. As Joseph said, we are very accessible, and KHF is able to share our contacts so that we can have dialogue if that is of interest to you. We are also proud to say that next week, the 27th and the 28th, we will be hosting HSME training where we convene healthcare organizations with OEMs and Cooperative Bank, the financier, to have dialogue on this issue, build strategy, but then also just link you with the OEMs that we're working with and the bank that we're working with to see if they would be of interest to strengthening your healthcare facilities and so on. You can see, as Joseph had mentioned, we have online training. So this is an abbreviated discussion on strategic procurement, but we do have online courses that would probably be attractive to some of your staff and management teams. And so we welcome you to access them. Please feel free to contact KHF to be able to do that. And then, yeah, so we have, and then we will have KHF as our support send the slides for this conversation, and then we can keep the conversation going. Mathenge, Joseph?
I think from my point of view, I don't have anything else to add. I just want to thank everybody for taking part in this. And the fact that we had such a good outshowing means that you guys are interested in growing. It's about partnership. It's about growing. I've been now living in Africa for many years. And one of the things I noticed that we don't do very well is partnership. And I'm going to put the call to action to you. Let's partner with the AMF program. Let's partner with the OEMs. Let's partner with KHF. Let's partner with other physicians around you that may need your help in building a strong practice. It's not afraid to do that to build centers of excellence. So I will leave you with that challenge. Over to you, Matenge.
Thank you, John and Faith. I think you really summarized it. I think at this point is just to thank KHF and the participants for gracing this event. It's always happy to interact with the industry. And as Joseph said, call to action, partner with AMF for in case of any more detailed questions. We, KHF and ourselves and also our partners in the financial institutions are willing to step in and assist in a big way. Thank you, and everybody to have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.